The country is observing Women's Day tomorrow, and most gender equality experts agree that even though a lot of progress has been made in this regard, much more needs to be done. But whether it's in boardrooms, leadership positions or communities, the gap between men and women actually still exists. Last year, the World Economic Forum ranked South Africa 19th overall in terms of gender gap equality. And to discuss this further, from our Pretoria studios, we're joined by Tamara Mathebula, who is the chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equity. Good to have you, Tamara. Thanks so much for joining us on the program.
Good morning to you, Leanne, and thank you for having me this morning.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. So, 25 years now into democracy, how would you describe the reality for most women in South Africa today?
Thank you very much. And I must say that, from where I'm sitting, basically, and as the new chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality, I must say that I'm equally honored and grateful for the presidential appointment. I think the Commission for Gender Equality has a big role to play. But where we are currently, and as we celebrate the National Women's Month, we are actually celebrating. It's time to reflect a lot of strides that the country has made in terms of fighting gender equality, as well as making sure that we also look at challenges that still lie ahead. The challenges are still big and broad, and amongst the challenges, we still have the big pay gap between women and men, and that we see in corporate sector. We still see a lot of gender-based violence as well as femicide in the country, and we are quite concerned to say we're still not there yet. If you look at people living with disability as well as LGBTIQA communities, there are a lot of discriminations there. Persons with disability as well as LGBTI communities are not even considered for promotions at the workplace, for an example. And these are the kinds of things that we are continuously dealing with as the country and as we're moving forward into another 25 years of democracy.
Yeah. And we can't, however, have this conversation without looking at some of the advances that we have made as a country, although there are a lot of challenges. I mean, if you look at Parliament, women representation is now close to 50%. I imagine the impact that this has had on the prioritization of issues affecting women on the ground is hopefully good, especially when it comes to laws that have been passed. What's your view on this?
Basically, I firmly believe that we really have made strides in that arena, especially in the political situation. You will remember that 25 years ago in 1994, in Parliament, we only had less than 3% women representation. And again, today, I think we pride ourselves by saying that today, the President actually announced in May that there is 50-50. And this is a contribution that the Commission has made in terms of sitting down with political parties before and after each and every election that we have had in the country. We always sit down with the political parties to say, look, let's talk about your quota systems, let's look at your zebras and look at whether you are implementing them, because I think one of our mandate is to make sure that we monitor the implementation of the quota systems within political parties. And this, we firmly believe that having been realized in Parliament, it will also be realized in provinces, and it will actually encourage political parties and legislatures to take inspirations of women into the tables and into the boardrooms and into the legislations to discuss issues that directly and indirectly affect women, whether it's employment or unemployment, whether it's equal pay, whether it's realization of women's rights in general, conditions of employment. All of these things need to be put on the table and to be revisited and see whether we are making any achievement as a country in as far as those issues are concerned.
We can speak, I imagine, being based in the corporate South Africa, or as we've been speaking to parliamentary South Africa, and that's sort of, maybe one could describe it as urban areas. But when it comes to gender parity in rural areas, there is a perception that because of traditional settings, this perpetuates a patriarchy. What's happening there?
Thank you for that question, and I'm quite happy to say that the Commission for the Gender Equality has actually looked at the traditional sector as well, and we have a report that we will be releasing soon, and that report will actually be tabling issues that we have discovered in our investigations. So our investigation report will hopefully be launched during the month of September, and that report actually tells us what is happening in the traditional sector, in rural areas, in as far as realization of gender equality is concerned. And we have spoken to different people. We have spoken to traditional leaders. We have spoken to women that are married to traditional leaders. We have spoken to ordinary traditional council members, as well as ordinary people that live in traditional or rural areas. And I must say that yes, there is very slow progress in terms of realizing gender equality in rural or in traditional setting as in general.
Coming in as the new chair, I mean, it's a very important position that you do hold. What are some of your visions going forward for the women of South Africa, and when it comes to gender equality?
Thank you very much, and I must say that I accept my huge responsibility bestowed upon me with such humility, and I'm willing to serve everyone, women, men, boy, girls, LGBTIQ communities, with such humility. And I believe that I'm standing on the shoulders of the staff members that are knowledgeable at CGE, led by the CEO, Ms. Mayema, as well as on the shoulders of my predecessors, because I'm not starting the work. There are people that have started the work, and those people will actually help us realize our goal. Our goal is to make sure that we eliminate completely all forms of gender discrimination, as well as realizing and promotion and protecting gender equality in South Africa. And I believe that our views as well as our goals are to make sure that we work together in partnership with other sectors in terms of realizing these goals. And I'm speaking about traditional sector, the women's ministry, and all government departments, as well as civil society organizations, in terms of realizing this goal.
I wish you the best of luck. We thank you very, very much for talking to us, and we'll be watching with keen interest the work that you do. Tamara Mathebula is the chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality, and reflecting with us on the strides the country has made concerning gender parity and the challenges that still exist. Again, thank you very, very much. The time now